For more on the potential impact of tonight's election on this country, I'm joined by Frank McKenna, who served as Canada's ambassador to the U.S. from 2005 to 2006, and of course, as Premier of New Brunswick from 1987 to 97. He's now Deputy Chair of TD Bank Group. Hi, Mr. McKenna. Great to see you.
Good evening, Bessie.
Thank you very much for making time for our program. I want to start off before getting into the impact on Canada to see if you're willing to make a prediction. What do you think is going to happen tonight?
It's pretty dangerous to make a prediction when the results are going to be known in 2 or 3 hours. But I think, I'll put my money on a trifecta.
So let's dig into a bit, as someone who intimately knows the relationship between these two countries, what you think or how significant you think this election is for this country. What's your overall sense of the stakes for Canada right now?
Well, the stakes are huge. 75% of our trade goes to the United States. It's an extraordinarily important commercial partner, but it's more than that. It's just it's our neighbor. It's the only neighbor we have, so it's our neighborhood. Look, under Trump, and there are many people who will be supportive of him, but under Trump, we would get 4 more years of unpredictability because that's part of his character. And we saw that before with Section 230 tariffs on steel and aluminum, and we saw fractious NAFTA negotiations and threats of auto tariffs of as high as 25%. That's been the characteristic of the relationship. Should the government change and we have a Biden administration, there's still going to be lots of pucks put on the net. It's never going to be easy, but I suspect the tone at the top will be more civil. We'll have some disagreements over energy. We'll have a lot of agreement on climate policy. And I think we'll have a path through to a way to resolve some of our long outstanding issues. For example, softwood lumber. If we could get the government of the United States to appoint the judges to the appellate tribunal there, we'll get to a decision quicker on softwood lumber. If the United States restores its view on the Iranian sanctions and removes them, it may give us a path through with Meng Wanzhou and perhaps a path through to dealing with China again. So a Biden electoral victory does give us some interesting options.
You mentioned the export statistic off the top, and I wanted to ask you a little bit more about trade as an issue, because certainly, yes, there were some very specific, obviously, irritants with the relationship with President Trump. You mentioned the aluminum tariffs, for example, and everything that happened with NAFTA. What I have noticed in a lot of what Joe Biden has talked about, though, is a similar vein of protectionism that we might not have heard 15 or 20 years ago. There's something to that concept resonating with Americans. And I wonder if you think that that might overall, no matter who ends up, emerging from tonight as the winner, might have an overall impact on the relationship between our two countries as far as trade is concerned.
Yeah, look, that's well said. Democrats have historically been more protectionist than Republicans. That's changed under Trump. But I would say that the government of Canada very cleverly, I think, and very strategically made sure that the Democratic Congress was part of the NAFTA negotiations and signed off on the final USMCA. So in a way, I think that is not going to be relitigated again. So I think that we're somewhat safe there. But there's no doubt we'll have to deal with trade issues no matter who wins in the United States. But one of the most important things, if I could say so, Bessie, for us is a multilateral world. We're a middling power. We need guardrails and protections for a country of our size in the world. And that's why we're part of so many multilateral organizations, whether it's CETA with Europe or TPP. But we need a really strong WTO. We need a really strong WHO. We need the Paris Accords with the United States as a participant. We need all of these institutions working for us and in my view, for the rest of the world as well. The world is better off when we're multilateral and we have each other's back. And lately, what we're seeing is a resurgence of nationalism, people putting up borders around their country, and that's historically been a recipe for economic disaster.
And how significant do you think the U.S. leadership role on that is? And I guess by that I mean, we have seen such a retreat from those institutions under President Trump. And though they are international in nature, it's kind of become apparent that without the U.S., there is sort of a reconfiguration of the things we've become used to.
Yeah, no, that's absolutely right. They're the leader in a unipolar world, and the rest of the world takes its cue off of the United States of America. So without their leadership at the WTO, for example, it'll fall into a shambles, and that will really hurt a lot of countries in the world, particularly emerging markets. The WHO, at a time when we're facing a pandemic of biblical proportions, we need the World Health Organization, and the United States is withdrawing from it. At a time when climate change is clearly a #1 crisis facing the planet, we need the United States leadership as part of the Paris Accords. So we do need them. It's not in Trump's DNA. That's just who he is, to be part of these multilateral institutions. He likes bilateral relationships where the heavy weight of the United States can always end up resulting in a difficult partnership. So that's not healthy for us, and it's not healthy for the world. But that is the DNA of the current president, and it is somewhat with the current Republican Party.
One more question to ground this in Canada before I let you go, Mr. McKenna. And, you know, we heard the Prime Minister today not wanting to obviously say, you know, who he wants to win or lose. No surprise there. You've been kind of on the other side. Peel back the curtain, if you could. How does the federal government prepare for the outcome of an election like this? Like, what might be happening behind the scenes?
Well, you know, their motto is going to be keep calm and carry on. They'll never say what they really want to happen, nor should they. But you can be sure that they have absolute total war rooms going in the embassy in Washington, probably in Ottawa as well, looking at every single scenario, being prepared to make phone calls tonight, not just to president or aspiring presidents, but also possibly to key senators and other important people in the United States government. Look, I give the government of Canada full marks, and the rest of Canada, provincial premiers, industry at large, in terms of dealing with the United States. I think that we can be very proud of the way that we have stood up to a very difficult situation and achieved considerable success. I think that will continue. We know how to do this, and the people, I think, from the provincial premiers to the government of Canada will handle it very well, very diplomatically.
Okay, Mr. McKenna, I'll leave it there. Thank you very much for your time this evening. Really appreciate it.
Thank you.
Hi, I'm Vashi Capellos, host of Power in Politics. See more of our show by subscribing to the CBC News channel or click the link for another video.